Did you enjoy your breakfast?
Oh, yes, thank you, yes. Tuesdays, do you think we could just go inside and get on?
Not really.
September 19th, 1975. British television changed forever. Fawlty Towers exploded onto screens with a level of chaos that felt unprecedented. Rudeness, wrapped in disaster. Madness, barely contained within the walls of a seaside hotel. But here's what nobody tells you. Behind every rant, every slammed door, every moment of Basil's unhinged fury, there were secrets, strange truths, unlikely coincidences, stories that even the most devoted fans never knew existed. You think you know Fawlty Towers? Think again. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal 15 hidden secrets that will completely change how you watch this legendary series. Some of these facts involve real injuries, genuine fear, and decisions that shocked the entire entertainment industry. Others reveal the mathematical precision behind what looks like pure chaos. Are you ready to discover what really happened behind the scenes of Britain's greatest sitcom? Let's begin. Secret number 1. The real hotel manager was even worse than Basil. Here's the question nobody asks. Where did Basil Fawlty actually come from? Most people assume John Cleese invented him, a fictional monster of rudeness and incompetence. But the truth is far stranger and honestly, far more disturbing. The entire series began with a real hotel stay that traumatized John Cleese so deeply, he couldn't stop talking about it. In 1970, the Monty Python team checked into a hotel in Torquay during a filming break. And the manager? He was, in Cleese's own words, the rudest man I've ever met in my life. But rudeness doesn't capture what actually happened. This manager insulted guests to their faces. He threw out a doctor because he looked suspicious. He complained that Cleese's table manners resembled those of a barbarian. And here's the detail that should make your jaw drop. He rearranged guest luggage based on his personal judgment of who looked respectable enough. Think about that. He was literally profiling people based on appearance and reorganizing their belongings accordingly. Cleese was so fascinated and horrified that he did something unusual for a comedy writer. He took notes, detailed notes, throughout the entire stay. He documented every insult, every bizarre decision, every moment of stunning incompetence. The rest of the Monty Python team fled the hotel immediately. They couldn't stand being there another minute, but Cleese stayed, observing this man like he was studying a rare species of wildlife. When he told Connie Booth about the experience, she immediately saw the comedic potential. But here's what's shocking. When Cleese later told the cast members about the real manager's behavior, they didn't believe him. They thought he was exaggerating for effect, until he started recounting specific incidents. The manager criticized people for how loudly they breathed. He created what Cleese described as a sinister atmosphere mixed with total incompetence. He operated the hotel like a tyrant ruling over a crumbling empire. And here's the twist that changes everything. Cleese later admitted he had to tone down many of the real stories because the truth felt too unbelievable for a sitcom.
Who forgot to wake you?
It is my fault.
Manuel! I knew it! Manuel!
Don't blame him.
Why not?
Let that sink in. Basil Fawlty, the character you think is wildly exaggerated, is actually a softened version of the real person. The hotel experience became one of British comedy's strangest gifts. Without that disastrous stay in Torquay, Fawlty Towers might never have existed. One man's genuine awfulness birthed one of television's greatest creations. Do you know anyone like Basil? Have you ever encountered a service worker who made you think, this person should not be dealing with the public? That's the power of this show. It taps into a universal experience. But the original? He was in a category all his own. Secret number 2. The entire series is just 12 episodes, and that was deliberate. Quick question. How many episodes of Fawlty Towers exist? If you're like most people, you probably think it ran for years, multiple seasons, dozens of episodes. The show feels so embedded in British culture that it seems impossible it could be anything less than a long-running success. The answer? 12. Just 12 episodes total. 2 seasons of 6 episodes each. That's it. That's the entire legacy. But here's what makes this truly remarkable. It wasn't cancelled. It wasn't cut short due to budget issues or declining ratings. John Cleese deliberately refused to make more episodes, even when the BBC begged him to continue. Why would anyone walk away from a massive hit at the height of its success? Cleese's reasoning was radical for its time. He believed that stretching the series would weaken its quality. He argued that the comedic pressure of running a hotel couldn't sustain endless storylines without becoming repetitive. The situations would start to feel familiar. The characters would become caricatures of themselves. The magic would fade. Connie Booth completely agreed. She preferred tight, meticulously crafted scripts over the alternative, pumping out episodes to meet network demands. The BBC executives were in complete shock. This doesn't happen in television. Successful shows continue until the ratings die or the cast gets tired. You don't voluntarily walk away from a gold mine. But Cleese was adamant. I couldn't bear watching the show go downhill. Think about how rare that is. How many shows have you watched that went on too long? That jumped the shark? That diluted what made them special in the first place? Cleese saw that trap and refused to fall into it. The decision was controversial within the industry because it challenged the fundamental logic of television economics. But Cleese insisted that every single episode needed to be densely packed with jokes and character-driven chaos. No filler, no mediocre episodes, no phoning it in. The result? Writers spent months, literally months, perfecting each script, rewriting scenes over and over, timing every beat, crafting every setup and payoff with surgical precision. The meticulous approach made filming slow and grueling. Actors later said the finished episodes felt like finely tuned stage plays rather than casual sitcoms. Here's what fans often forget. The show's legendary status rests on an incredibly small number of installments. The brevity didn't hurt its legacy. It enhanced it. Every episode is essential. There's no episode you skip on a rewatch. There's no season that's weaker than the others. Quality over quantity. It's a phrase we hear all the time, but Fawlty Towers actually lived it. That 12-episode run remains one of British TV's boldest creative choices. It proved that a perfect compact series could outlast and outshine shows that lasted for years. How many other shows do you wish had ended sooner? Which ones lost their way by continuing too long? Secret number 3. Andrew Sachs suffered real injuries playing Manuel. When you watch Manuel stumble, fall, get hit, and generally suffer physical abuse throughout Fawlty Towers, you're probably thinking, that's obviously stunt work, right? Or at least carefully choreographed with safety measures? Wrong. Andrew Sachs performed most of Manuel's physical comedy himself, and he sustained real, genuine injuries during filming that he kept secret from almost everyone. Let me paint the picture for you. During the famous fire drill scene, Sax's arm was accidentally burned by a malfunctioning prop. Not a minor burn, a real injury that required medical attention. Another time, a metal tray struck him on the back of the head when a stunt went wrong.
Manuel Towers, how are you? It's nice today. Good. Goodbye.
The impact was hard enough that it could have caused serious damage. And his response? He insisted on continuing because he believed Manuel's innocence depended on genuine physical clumsiness. Think about the commitment required for that decision. You're injured on set, the director is apologizing, everyone's concerned, and you say, no, let's keep going. The character needs this to be real. John Cleese felt terrible when accidents occurred. He repeatedly checked on Sachs between takes, clearly worried about his safety. But Sachs remained dedicated and eerily calm throughout it all. He said he trusted the team completely, even when scenes became dangerously frantic. Producers tried to help. They introduced softer props, foam substitutes, breakaway materials, anything to make the physical comedy safer. Sachs refused. He preferred realism over safety. He wanted the impact of that tray to look and sound real, because anything less would betray the character. His commitment impressed the entire cast, who started calling him the quiet hero of the show. But here's the detail that reveals just how far Sachs took this. He kept many injuries completely secret during production to avoid delaying the shooting schedule. Let that sink in. He was hurt, possibly seriously, and said nothing, because he didn't want to be the reason an episode fell behind schedule. Fans watching the show never realized how much pain went into Manuel's funniest moments. Every pratfall, every collision, every moment where he's hit by something, there's a real physical cost that we, as viewers, were completely unaware of. His physical dedication contributed enormously to the show's frantic energy. Manuel's misadventures became legendary precisely because they felt so real, because they were real. Andrew Sachs essentially sacrificed his body for the sake of comedy. That's not hyperbole, that's documented fact. It raises an uncomfortable question. Would Fawlty Towers be as beloved if Manuel's physical comedy had been safer, more obviously staged? Would the character have the same impact? The answer is probably no. And that means one of British comedy's greatest achievements came at a genuine physical cost that viewers rarely understood. Secret number 4. The scripts were written like mathematical equations. When you watch Fawlty Towers, it feels chaotic, anarchic, like anything could happen at any moment. The comedy seems to emerge from pure disorder, a man losing his mind while everything falls apart around him. But that's an illusion. A very carefully constructed illusion. The truth is far more interesting. Cleese and Booth wrote the series using an unusually rigid structural system. They timed scenes down to the second. They mapped character movements like architectural blueprints. Cleese once compared their writing process to solving an equation. An equation, not writing jokes or creating comedy. An equation. Here's how it actually worked. The pair spent weeks building setups and payoffs with mathematical precision. Every misunderstanding, every lie, every slapstick moment had to interlock perfectly. If Basil lied to someone in Act 1, that lie had to create consequences in Act 2 that exploded in Act 3. Nothing could be random. Actors described rehearsals as both exhilarating and exhausting. Sometimes, a single scene required dozens of rewrites to achieve the desired timing. Not pretty good timing. The exact, correct timing. Cleese would pace obsessively during script read-throughs, literally counting beats like a conductor leading an orchestra. Booth approached emotional moments with equal precision, arguing that farce needed heart to stay grounded. Otherwise, it would just be noise. Directors followed the scripts almost like stage plays, allowing very little improvisation. And here's why. The mathematical structure made even small mistakes immediately noticeable during filming. If an actor paused half a second too long, if a door closed at the wrong moment, if someone entered 3 steps too early, it threw off the entire mechanism. Cast members often said they felt like they were performing choreographed dance routines rather than sitcom scenes. But here's the payoff of all that precision. The show has incredible rewatch value. Each episode reveals hidden details and interconnected jokes upon repeated viewing. You can watch an episode 5 times and still notice new connections, new setups you missed, new payoffs that were there all along. This meticulousness became the signature of Fawlty Towers' genius. The show feels chaotic, but underneath it's engineered with extraordinary precision. It's like watching a perfect clockwork mechanism that's been designed to look like it's exploding. Think about other sitcoms you love. How many of them reveal new details on the 3rd, 4th, 5th viewing? How many are actually built for repeated analysis? Very few. And that's what separates good comedy from legendary comedy. Secret number 5. John Cleese's intensity terrified new actors. Imagine you're a guest actor. You've just been cast in Fawlty Towers, one of the biggest comedy shows on British television. You arrive on set excited and nervous. You watch the first scene being filmed, and John Cleese explodes into a rage so intense, so convincing, so absolutely terrifying, that you genuinely believe he's having a breakdown. This happened repeatedly throughout the show's run. Cleese threw himself into Basil Fawlty's explosive rants with such intensity that newcomers to the set often believed he was genuinely furious. Guest actors sometimes mistook him for being rude, unapproachable, or genuinely unstable. Directors learned, quickly, to warn first-time performers not to take Basil's outbursts personally. But here's the method behind the madness. Cleese preferred staying in an agitated state between takes to maintain momentum. He didn't want to cool down and then have to ramp back up for the next scene. So he remained on edge, pacing, muttering, keeping that frantic energy alive. Cast members joked that filming days felt like living inside a storm. Even experienced performers were occasionally startled by his sudden shouting. Andrew Sachs said that Cleese's energy made slapstick scenes feel frighteningly real. Prunella Scales admired his commitment, but noted that Basil's rage could be physically overwhelming to witness up close. Crew members often waited for a clear signal from Cleese before approaching him during intense sequences. Nobody wanted to accidentally interrupt him while he was maintaining that state of controlled fury. Despite his on-screen intensity, here's what almost everyone emphasized. Once scenes wrapped, Cleese remained polite and calm. The anger was entirely performance. Many guest actors expressed enormous relief after they realized the rage was a character choice, not genuine temperament. But think about what this reveals about Cleese's craft. His ability to transform so completely heightened the show's comedic power. Basil's rage wasn't just acted, it felt inhabited. Cleese essentially became this furious, desperate, panicked man for the duration of filming. That level of commitment is rare, and it made the hotel's madness feel explosively real. Without Cleese's terrifying precision, the chaos wouldn't have felt nearly as dangerous. And comedy, at its best, should feel a little bit dangerous. Have you ever worked with someone so committed to their craft that it intimidated you? That's the effect Cleese had on set. Secret number 6. Sybil Fawlty was based on real hotel managers. Prunella Scales didn't just read the script and play Sybil Fawlty as written. She did something far more interesting. She went on a research mission. Scales visited several seaside hotels across Britain and took mental notes on how certain managers operated. She was specifically looking for women who used sweetness as a weapon, people who maintained order using polite but unbreakable authority. And she found them everywhere. Scales noticed how certain women could devastate someone with a smile, how they could issue commands that sounded like suggestions but were actually non-negotiable, how they wielded politeness like a knife. She blended this behavior with razor-sharp sarcasm, creating a character who could destroy Basil with a single raised eyebrow. But here's a specific detail that reveals her process. Sybil's laugh, that distinctive, slightly unhinged laugh that became her trademark, was invented after Scales overheard a woman laughing uncontrollably at a restaurant. Scales exaggerated it, refined it, and turned it into Sybil's weapon of dominance. That laugh could mean anything: genuine amusement, social mockery, veiled threat, condescending dismissal. It became terrifying precisely because you never quite knew what it signified. Writers started giving Scales increasingly biting dialogue because she delivered it with such effortless charm. She could say something absolutely devastating and make it sound almost affectionate. Cleese said Sybil could destroy Basil with a single raised eyebrow. That's not exaggeration. Watch the show again and count how many times Scales conveys complete contempt without saying a word. She played Sybil with warmth wrapped inside intimidation.
Oh, thank you, Polly.
Are you going to do the car?
In a moment, my little piranha fish.
She wanted the character to feel like someone Basil genuinely feared, but also depended on. The dynamic became the emotional backbone of their marriage. Fans adored Sybil because she always seemed 5 steps ahead of Basil's schemes. She knew what he was up to before he did. She anticipated his lies, his plans, his desperate attempts to hide things from her. Scales later admitted she enjoyed playing a woman with absolute control in a relationship. It was refreshing for the era, where wives in sitcoms were often either nagging stereotypes or oblivious to their husband's behavior. Sybil was neither. She was formidable. Her performance helped shape the entire show's power structure. The hotel might have Basil's name on it, but Sybil runs it. That dynamic is what makes their relationship so endlessly watchable. And it's all grounded in real human behavior that Scales observed in actual hotels across Britain. Secret number 7. The Germans episode nearly didn't air. Don't mention the war. 3 words that became one of the most famous lines in British television history.
Pull her there!
I can't! I've got too much to do. Listen, don't mention the war. I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it all right.
The episode containing those words is regularly voted one of the greatest sitcom episodes ever made. It almost never aired. The BBC was terrified. Executives feared that the Germans would offend international audiences, particularly German viewers. They worried that Basil's infamous routine would be misunderstood, that people would think the show was mocking Germans rather than British awkwardness. There were long, tense discussions before the episode was approved. Cleese argued passionately that the joke was not about Germans, it was about British inability to handle social tension. He insisted that Basil was the target of the comedy, that the character was mocking his own awkwardness and outdated attitudes. After extensive debate, the BBC allowed the episode to air, but monitored early reviews with extreme nervousness. And here's what happened. Many German viewers who watched the episode said they found it hilarious. They got it. They understood that Basil was the joke, not them. The comedic target was clearly a man so socially inept, so desperate to avoid awkwardness, that he made everything infinitely more awkward. The episode became an instant classic because of its escalating absurdity. Cleese's physical comedy during the goose-stepping scene pushed the boundaries of what sitcom chaos could contain. The lines became some of the most quoted in British comedy history. Teachers later used the episode to explain British humor to foreign students, the self-deprecating nature of it, the way it mocks British hang-ups about World War II rather than the war itself. Despite initial concerns, the episode became one of the most successful of the entire series. It proved that bold comedy could still be clever and sensitive, that you could address uncomfortable historical topics through comedy without being offensive. The risk paid off in spectacular fashion, and it raises an interesting question. How much great comedy never gets made because executives are afraid of taking risks? How many brilliant episodes are killed in development because someone worries about potential offense? We almost lost the Germans. Think about what British comedy would have lost if the BBC had refused to air it. Secret number 8. Connie Booth walked away from acting. Polly, the sensible, intelligent, endlessly patient waitress who served as the emotional anchor of Fawlty Towers. She was the character viewers identified with, the normal person trapped in an asylum. Connie Booth played her with such intelligence and subtle warmth that fans assumed she'd go on to a long, celebrated acting career. Instead, she walked away. Soon after the series ended, Booth stepped away from acting almost entirely. Fans were shocked. The industry was baffled. Why would someone at the peak of their success simply quit? Booth felt she had achieved what she wanted in the entertainment world. She increasingly preferred writing to performing. And then she made an even more surprising choice. She trained as a psychotherapist. She literally left show business to help people work through their problems. Booth never spoke publicly about her split from Cleese beyond respectful statements. She remained proud of Fawlty Towers but disliked the idea of being defined solely by it. Friends said she preferred a private, grounded life outside the spotlight. Directors often praised her ability to elevate scenes through quiet expressions. Polly became the emotional anchor of the show specifically because Booth played her with such realism and restraint. She wasn't performing, she was being. Fans continued to ask her for autographs for years after she retired. Booth repeatedly said she was grateful for the role but did not miss acting. Her decision shocked the industry but made sense to those who knew her personally. She found fulfillment helping people rather than performing for them. Think about how rare that is. How many actors say they're going to walk away from fame and actually do it? How many choose meaning over celebrity? Her departure from acting became one of the show's quietest but most surprising footnotes. Polly remains one of British comedy's most beloved characters thanks to Booth's understated brilliance. And then she vanished from the public eye, choosing a completely different path that genuinely helped people. There's something beautiful about that choice, isn't there? Secret number 9. The cast couldn't stop laughing. The version of Fawlty Towers you've seen on television looks crisp, tight, perfectly timed. Every joke lands. Every movement is precise. It feels like a well-oiled machine. Behind the scenes, complete chaos. Despite the show's tightly controlled structure, the cast frequently broke character during rehearsals. The scripts were so densely packed with jokes that maintaining composure became almost impossible. Cleese's physical comedy often triggered uncontrollable laughter from the crew. Andrew Sachs admitted he ruined several takes by laughing at Cleese's improvised facial expressions.
He's not dead.
No, it was just the Major letting the gun off.
The Major tried to kill Basil.
Kill Basil?
No, not Mr. Fawlty.
Little things that Cleese would do between lines that weren't in the script. Even Prunella's scales occasionally collapsed into giggles during intense argument scenes. Directors grew used to resetting scenes multiple times, just to restore composure. The cast said, filming felt like working on a chaotic stage play where anything could go wrong at any moment. Rehearsals sometimes descended into complete hysterics when props malfunctioned at the wrong moment. A door would stick, a tray would fall early, something would break, and the entire set would dissolve into laughter. The writing was so sharp that even minor lines caused repeated corpsing, the theatrical term for breaking character and laughing. Cleese often tried to stay stern, but secretly enjoyed the chaos. Guest actors were frequently shocked by how much the regular cast laughed at each other. They'd arrive expecting a professional, serious set, and instead find themselves in an environment where laughter was constant. These moments created a tight bond among the actors. The laughter helped maintain energy during long, grueling days of filming. Fans watching outtakes later realized just how contagious the comedy was. The show's precision may have looked effortless, but behind the scenes, it was fueled by constant, genuine joy. And here's what that reveals. The cast found the material as funny as we did. They weren't tired of the jokes. They weren't going through the motions. They were genuinely cracking each other up. That energy is infectious. You can feel it in the finished product. Secret number 10. Many props came from real hotels. To make Fawlty Towers feel authentic, the production team could have used rental props or theatrical supplies. Instead, they made an unusual choice. They borrowed real items from functioning hotels. Reception bells that had rung for decades of actual guests. Luggage trolleys that bore the scuff marks of thousands of bags. Key racks that had held countless room keys for real customers. They even borrowed old guest ledgers to give the front desk a lived-in appearance.
There we are, Mr. Ingram's number 8. Top of the stairs on the right.
Many props had genuine wear and tear from years of use in actual hotels. The authenticity helped actors feel immersed in Basil's chaotic world. Some items had histories far older than the show itself. Prunella Scales said she loved touching objects that had served real customers. It grounded her performance in reality. The production team took great care returning everything undamaged. One hotel manager joked that their key rack became more famous after appearing in the series than it had been in 30 years of actual use. These real props made the set feel strangely alive. Cast members said they could almost smell the faded carpets of the real hotels the items came from. Why does this matter? Because authenticity helps ground wild storylines. When everything around the chaos is real, genuine objects with real history, the comedy feels more substantial. It's not just people being silly in a fake set. It's real people, in a real space, having genuinely absurd interactions. These small details contributed enormously to the show's timeless realism. It made Fawlty Towers feel like an actual functioning disaster of a hotel, not a television set pretending to be one. Secret number 11. The Pampered dog story came from real complaints. One of the most memorable storylines involves a difficult guest with a pampered dog who treats the animal like aristocracy.
Well, they're lapdogs, aren't they?
A lapdog? Oh, hard to imagine him.
The woman is furious that hotel staff won't give her dog extra portions of food, outraged that the creature isn't receiving royal treatment. You probably assumed that was pure comic invention, creative exaggeration. It wasn't. Cleese read an actual hotel complaint letter from a woman furious that staff members refused to give her dog special treatment. The letter was remarkably similar to what ended up in the show. She treated her pet as if it were an aristocratic human, deserving of deference. Cleese was fascinated by the entitlement, by how seriously this woman took her pet's dignity. He turned this exaggerated behavior into a comedic archetype. The writers then studied old hotel complaint logs for more inspiration, and they discovered an entire world. Bizarre requests, outrageous expectations, people treating hotel staff like personal servants. The dog storyline grew naturally from these real examples. Cast members loved performing scenes with the trained animal, though filming was complicated because the dog frequently ignored commands. The production team had to reshoot moments because the animal wandered off at unpredictable times. Cleese joked that the dog had better comic timing than he did. But here's why this storyline resonated. It mocked British class pretensions with precision. Audiences immediately recognized the archetype, the person who treats their pet better than they treat service workers. The blend of truth and exaggeration made the episode unforgettable. It proved once again that the strangest comedy often comes straight from real life. You don't need to make things up when reality provides such perfect material. Secret number 12. The editing was revolutionary. When you watch Fawlty Towers, the pacing feels modern, fast, energetic. It doesn't feel like a 1970s sitcom, it feels like something that could have been made yesterday. That's not an accident. It's the result of cutting-edge editing techniques that were revolutionary for the era. Editors used fast cuts and precise timing to highlight Basil's frantic movements. Scenes were trimmed to milliseconds to maintain comedic energy. Cleese worked closely with editors to shape the rhythm of jokes. He believed comedy depended as much on silence as on punchlines. Editors often removed tiny pauses, fractions of a second, to heighten tension. The pacing felt more like cinematic farce than traditional television. Fans later remarked that the show felt strangely modern, even decades later. Each episode required more editing time than most sitcoms of the era. Directors praised the editors for turning chaos into clarity. Their work made the show's slapstick feel crisp rather than messy. The editing contributed enormously to the show's longevity. It helped Fawlty Towers feel timeless, fast-paced, and endlessly rewatchable. The production team set new standards for television comedy. Without such careful craftsmanship, the hotel's madness would never have flowed as perfectly. This is one of those invisible elements that viewers don't consciously notice but absolutely feel. The show just works at a rhythmic level that most comedies don't achieve. Secret number 13, the Dead Guest episode, had dark, real origins. The episode where Basil tries desperately to hide a dead guest, moving the body, concealing it from other guests, creating a spiraling disaster.
Who found the body?
Polly did. I was bringing him up the milk and we'd forgotten it.
Is simultaneously one of the darkest and funniest episodes of the series. Where did such a macabre idea come from? A real story from a real hotel manager. Cleese heard about a situation where a guest had passed away quietly overnight, leaving staff completely unsure how to inform other guests without causing panic or disruption. Cleese immediately recognized the potential for dark farce. He and Booth reimagined the situation as a spiraling disaster specifically for Basil, a man so terrified of embarrassment and bad publicity that he makes catastrophically bad decisions. The writers balanced humor with genuine human discomfort. Cast members initially felt nervous performing scenes involving a corpse. The director reassured them that the humor targeted Basil's incompetence, not the deceased person. Sachs found the storyline particularly intense because of the physical comedy involved in moving the body. Cleese said the episode captured the nightmare logic of hotel management, the desperation to maintain appearances even when something terrible has happened. The storyline highlighted how fear of embarrassment can lead to catastrophic decisions, and audiences responded with enormous enthusiasm. The episode became one of the most quoted in discussions of dark British humor. It showed the show's willingness to explore riskier territory while maintaining its comedic core. This combination of discomfort and farce became a hallmark of the series. They weren't afraid to address death, handle taboo subjects, or push boundaries, as long as the comedy came from character rather than cruelty. Secret number 14, Basil's walk, came from a real military officer. Basil's stiff, exaggerated walk during certain episodes, especially when he's trying to impress someone or hide panic, became one of the show's most iconic physical gags.
I'll do that for any more.
You probably thought Cleese made it up or improvised it on set. He didn't. It came from careful observation of a real person. Cleese once met a British military officer at a formal event who marched everywhere with exaggerated dignity, seemingly completely unaware of how humorous it looked. The officer took himself so seriously, carried himself with such rigid formality, that it became absurd. Cleese studied the movement closely. He recreated it whenever Basil tried to project authority or dignity while everything fell apart around him. Directors encouraged Cleese to lean even further into the ridiculousness, to make it more pronounced, more absurd. The result became one of the show's most recognizable visual jokes. Cast members struggled not to laugh when Cleese performed the walk during rehearsals. Even Prunella Scales admitted she had to look away to stay in character. Fans mistakenly believed the walk was improvised, but it was actually carefully rehearsed. Cleese refined it repeatedly to keep it sharp and consistent. The military inspiration added an extra layer to Basil's pretentiousness. It was a physical symbol of his desperate need for authority, his insistence on dignity in the face of constant chaos. The walk remains one of British comedy's most recognizable visual jokes, a perfect physical manifestation of Basil's character. Secret number 15. The show's true explosion happened after it ended. Here's the final secret, and it might be the most surprising of all. Fawlty Towers wasn't really a massive phenomenon when it originally aired. It was popular. It was successful. Critics liked it, but it wasn't a cultural juggernaut. Its true cultural explosion happened years, sometimes decades, after it ended. Repeats introduced it to entirely new generations of viewers who had never seen it during its original run. Critics began citing it not just as a good sitcom, but as the pinnacle of British farce. Cast members were genuinely surprised by how much the show's reputation grew over time. Fans started studying episodes like literature, analyzing subtext and structure. Comedy writers began referencing it as a masterclass in timing and character development. International broadcasters embraced it, expanding its reach far beyond the UK. The show became required viewing in television writing courses around the world. Its scripts were praised for blending character, chaos, and social satire in ways that most sitcoms never achieve. Actors continued to receive fan mail decades later, letters from people who had just discovered the show and felt compelled to express their appreciation. Tourism in Torquay increased because visitors wanted to see the town that inspired the series. Merchandise sales remained strong despite the show's age. Its legacy transformed from hit sitcom into cultural touchstone. Fawlty Towers stands as a rare example of comedy that grows more legendary with each passing year. Most shows peak during their original run and then fade. Fawlty Towers did the opposite. It proved that true quality endures, that a perfect 12 episodes can outlast a mediocre 100 episodes, that doing something brilliantly and then stopping is better than diluting genius for profit. The show's reputation today is arguably bigger than it was during its original broadcast, and that's the ultimate testament to its quality. What these secrets reveal. So what do these 15 hidden secrets actually tell us about Fawlty Towers? They reveal a show built on real observation, genuine commitment, and uncompromising creative standards. Every element, from Cleese's terror-inducing intensity to Sachs's physical sacrifices, from the mathematical precision of the scripts to the authenticity of the props, contributed to creating something that felt both wildly chaotic and completely real. The show succeeded not despite its limitations, but because of them. 12 episodes, grueling production, injuries, intense performances, revolutionary editing, all of it combined to create something that still feels fresh nearly 50 years later. These secrets also reveal how much work goes into making something look effortless. Viewers see chaos. Behind the scenes was extraordinary discipline. They show us that the best comedy comes from truth, from observing real behavior, and heightening it just enough to reveal its absurdity. And they proved that sometimes walking away at the peak is the smartest decision you can make. Your turn. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these secrets surprised you the most? Did knowing about Sax's injuries change how you watch Manuel's physical comedy? Does understanding the mathematical precision behind the scripts make you appreciate the show differently? Have you encountered anyone in real life who reminded you of Basil Fawlty? What's your favorite episode and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's have a real conversation about what makes Fawlty Towers endure. Because ultimately, this isn't just a show about a disastrous hotel. It's a show about human nature, our pretensions, our fears, our desperate attempts to maintain dignity when everything falls apart. And that's something that will never stop being funny. The final word. Fawlty Towers remains the gold standard for British comedy. 12 perfect episodes that continue to influence comedy writers 50 years later. A show that proved quality matters more than quantity, that bold choices pay off, and that sometimes the best decision is knowing when to stop. Behind every moment of chaos was real observation, genuine pain, mathematical precision, and uncompromising standards. That's the real secret of Fawlty Towers. Not just that it was funny, but that it was true.